going to give folks a moment to come in, and then I would love to share with you all sort of how we're going to get to learn and work together today. So I'm just going to share my screen. We will be doing a shared learning experience today. So come on in. I hope you're in the right place. We're talking about embedded instruction and inclusive practices for the early childhood classroom. I hope we have some wonderful early childhood folks in here. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. Come in. So for everybody who's in here, we're going to drop into the chat sort of this home base, which you should all be able to access. And on it, you can click, you can see a PDF of the slides. You can see a Padlet I'm going to refer to. And what I really want us to dive into right now is sort of getting on Pear Deck. So we're going to use Pear Deck together to learn. I promise I'm going to introduce myself and hear from you all. But if you can click on that Pear Deck link, then you should end up getting to see the slides in Pear Deck. So I'm going to just check in. I know this is fun as we're virtually doing this and ensuring we have lots of participation. So you can grab that link on the chat. I mean, in the chat on the home base. And I'm also going to put the link to the Pear Deck in there in the chat just in case, so you can grab that. And then my support folks in the room, if we see more people come in, if we can give that link to them, that would be great. Okay, so we are going to talk today about embedded instruction. Like I said, I'm Katie Johnson. I'm a statewide implementation coach manager for the Embedded Instruction for Early Learning California project over here at Napa County Office of Education. So I work with the DR Access project, which is the DRDP, the desired results. And this is a state-funded project from the CDE to really support high-quality inclusive practices for kiddos with IEPs. My email is there, and you should be able to access that. So I just want to share again, we're going to be using Pear Deck today. So I really recommend you checking out the Pear Deck link that we put in the chat. Then you're able to do some of these interactive pieces with us today. Was everybody able to get into the Pear Deck? If you can show me a thumbs up, or, you know, put a little thumbs up thing on the chat. Wonderful. Just want to make sure. Yes. Love it. Thank you. Want to make sure that we all are here together. Okay. So some tips, if anybody's doing Pear Deck on a laptop, or if it's a smaller screen, you'll see that there's a window that I'm presenting from. I mean, where you're able to see Zoom, and then you'll see your own Pear Deck window. So what we do recommend is, if you're on Zoom, which we all are, if you press escape or exit full screen, then you have a little bit more flexibility to move between the Zoom screen and your Pear Deck screen. You're going to be using Pear Deck to sort of have some response and interaction there. Okay, and I'm new to using Pear Deck, but we've been doing it in a variety of trainings, and I think it really adds another layer of support for folks and just interactivity. Okay. Great. So here's our first learning experience with Pear Deck. So on your screen of Pear Deck, you should see this happening, and you should see a dot. So I would love it if you could put your dot into one of these boxes, and then we will be able to look at us together to sort of see where everybody's at. So we have some practitioners, meaning special education teachers, general education teachers, speech and language pathologists, and we have some administrators and program supports. Love it. Okay, we've got another little one. I love it that we've got both. No families here today. Okay, for this one, you should have a few different dots. There's 3 dots, but we only need to use 2 of them. So feel free to select whatever 2 colors you would like to look at. What are you bringing today? What's your current knowledge? It's always great for me to know where are my folks at in here. So are you at a 0 in embedded instruction? Like, this is my first time I'm here and I'm excited, but I don't know a lot about it. Versus are you a 7? Like, yes, I've been doing this. I'm feeling really great about embedded instruction. I know all about it. And then the same for the DRDP. Are you someone who has never used the DRDP and you're brand new to it? Or are you well-versed in the DRDP and been using it for years? Awesome. Love it. So we have people sort of in the middle here with embedded instruction and a few on the higher level. And look at this, all across the board for the DRDP. So that is great information as we sort of dive through. Okay, this is our last practice activity because we are going to be using this. So we want to connect with how we are feeling today. What I would like you to do, this one might need a little more guidance. I want you to go on to the text where you click on the T for text. You can see there's like a pencil, a highlighter in the text, and I want you to write how you are feeling today. This is a very limited choice of emotions, so you do not have to only limit yourself to those emotions. But how are you arriving today? All right, and then you just write that in there. You can move it, you can resize it. We will be using this later, but we just want to give it a try. Okay, and then let me go back to mine. Oh, great. Interested, open to learning, curious, proud. Love it. There are just so many different ways that we get to interact now using all these virtual methods and modes. Okay, so I know a little tiny bit about you. It's wonderful that we have a small group. Are we recording this session? Did we already start recording?
Yes, we already started recording.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad that we have a recording of this too, so we can go back and reference. And we are going to dive into embedded instruction. And we're going to look at a few of these pieces, right? We want to collectively today discover a little bit more about embedded instruction through our case study of Ryan. We want to enhance and sort of look at observation skills, connect the DRDP to instruction, and just talk a little bit about the DRDP child report. And I want you all to be able to walk away with some tools that you can use in your classroom or with your teachers. Okay. So first things first, I would like to share a video with you. So let me make sure I'm sharing my sound. And let's watch this little video together. This is how people will see your video. I'm going to put on the closed captions. Oh, they're on. Great.
Hi, my name is Erica, and I'm here to take you down the road of embedded instruction for Early Learning California. Let's go! Embedded instruction supports teachers to strengthen the learning link between the child's IEP, the California Preschool Learning Foundations, and the DRDP. They use this information to create an individualized learning plan that supports the child to learn new skills. Embedded instruction builds on child engagement within ongoing classroom activities to maximize motivation and learning. Let's look at the components of embedded instruction. First, teaching teams observe, review child information, and talk to parents to determine what skill the child needs to learn and when they can naturally use that skill within the classroom. They use this information to write the learning plan. Then the team determines how to support learning, meaning they use their plan to implement intentional embedded learning opportunities for the child to use and practice those specific skills. They work the plan. Then the team checks the plan to make decisions about learning, meaning they look at data and ask, am I doing it? Is it working? And do I need to make changes? Here is Ryan. Ryan's teacher worked with her coach to break down Ryan's IEP goals in the areas of fine motor, language, and social skills into short-term learning targets such as drawing simple shapes, asking for an item, and taking turns with his peers. Ryan's teacher planned and implemented those learning targets as embedded learning opportunities during the activities that Ryan is engaged in, where he needs to use the skill and when he is with his peers. And then the team checked the plan. Ryan is making progress, and it's working. Teachers will access different tools and resources to support the learning and use of embedded instruction in the classroom, including practice-based coaching. Coaches support teachers to create their own individualized path that is driven by shared goals.
Coaching has been wonderful in that there's been videotaping involved to kind of see how I do complete learning trials. Am I doing the goals? All the knowledge is in there, but the coach really helps bring it out and helps us problem solve.
What's exciting presenting this to you all here at the Inclusion Collaborative Conference is that a lot of components of that video were taken, and Maureen is a teacher from Santa Clara County. So we did a lot of work in Santa Clara County. I was actually a coach back in 2015 for embedded instruction in Santa Clara. So it's just exciting if any of you are local from Santa Clara. It has been something that has been building and growing there. Okay, so any reflections or anything from this video with what you all have seen or maybe experienced with embedded instruction, or anything you'd want to share for our group learning today? Feel free to drop it in the chat too. Any comments, reflections, or takeaways? Awesome. All right. I have so many tabs open. It happens so fast. Great. So let me know if anything comes up and you all find anything that you want to share. Okay, as we go through, you will have opportunities through Pear Deck. So embedded instruction, right? We talk about supporting kiddos, supporting children within the context of ongoing activities and routines. And here you can read this quote, that inclusive classes promote children's engagement and learning in the general education preschool curriculum. You can see we've got Ian here. Okay, Ian is during arrival and check-in. He's working on some of these skills. During family style meal times and during play at the sensory table, we can see that we're actually creating these engaging opportunities for him to work on some targeted skills. What I would love you to take a moment to do on your Pear Deck is to respond in the little text box that it gives you with what are some skills that it looks like that you think that Ian might be learning or working on. And you want to really think of what we could see or hear him do. So I'm going to give you a moment. Look at that. Boom, we're fast. Name recognition, social skills, fine motor, communication, work with a peer. Oh, I like it. Awesome. Self-help, feeding. Feeding himself. That's great, working with the peer. And does this Does this instruction look different than potentially what other children are doing in the classroom? Right, it really doesn't. You know, this is built in within the context of ongoing activities. So, right, so Ian is learning these things as well as these are skills that you're targeting for other kiddos while you're in the classroom. And that's a real key when we're thinking of embedded instruction, right? Is we're just embedding systematic and intentional instruction for kiddos within what's already going on in the classroom. And this is stuff that our educators are already doing with pieces like the preschool learning foundations, right? The preschool learning foundations help to give us sort of the roadmap and the knowledge and the skills that kiddos need. And the DRDP, which is an authentic assessment, which really shows us where children are at within that learning scope and sequence that the preschool learning foundation gives us. So we've got that access piece. We've got kiddos within the classroom. We have these tools that give us the what of teaching, right? And the DRDP helps us with where the child is. And those are things that our teachers are already using in the classroom. And when we look at this piece of embedded instruction, what we really get to focus on here at embedded instruction is building in that participation to go along with the access. Meaning, with embedded instruction, we are targeting children to effectively and excitedly engage in the ongoing activities within their classroom, right? You're at the Inclusion State Conference. I know that we're talking a lot about access and participation because you really need both in order to have a truly inclusive environment. And that's where embedded instruction can support us with that. Okay, embedded instruction, right? It's a collaborative approach that provides systematic instruction for preschool children with IEPs. These are just some quick facts that it is supported by research, and it's an evidence-based practice focused on promoting children's participation. And we really look at a lot of right-sized professional development for teachers here at EIELCA California, and I'll tell you guys more about that. So we're going to do something together, okay? We're going to watch a video, we're going to observe. Take a minute and look at what this says about Ryan and read about Ryan. Let's think about Ryan. I'm going to give you a moment to read it so you don't only have to listen to me talk about him. Okay, he follows the classroom routine. He loves to play with dinosaurs and blocks with his friend Oliver. He uses his single words to label. So that's who Ryan is. We're going to dive more deeply and share some information around Ryan, but we really want to show you what we're looking at when we're looking at these components of embedded instruction. So we're going to start. These are the 4 components: what to teach, when to teach, how to teach, and how to evaluate. Okay, those are the 4 components of embedded instruction. And first, we're going to look at this first one, which is what to teach. So what we call it in embedded instruction is a priority learning target, meaning of all of the things that we're doing in the classroom with the kiddo, we want to make a priority of one or a few different learning areas. And then a learning target is really that targeted first skill that we want the child to work with and work on. So we're going to start with what to teach. So we are going to watch a video together of Ryan playing with Oliver. And we want to look at some of the features of this activity. We want to see, is this more of a child-initiated activity or a teacher-led activity? I want you to be thinking, are children interested and engaged? Are there opportunities for interaction? And then I want you to think of what are some skills that children in general, that all children may need to engage in this activity, really focusing on the skills that will help them to engage and participate meaningfully in this activity. Okay, so we're going to watch this video together and then we will talk about that. Where are all these lines coming from? Am I drawing them on?
You didn't get the people? Oh, what happened to Dad?
Dad, what's in there? Oh. Have you say sorry to me?
Did you pay for the tickets?
Just hit it. Oh, he broke the zoo.
He broke the zoo.
Yeah, he's breaking all the zoo.
Oh
No.
no. You need to pay for the tickets first, right? Yeah, don't break the zoo. Be careful. So who's the cashier? The cashier's over there?
This is Ryan over here. But luckily, we are just observing to see how he's doing during that activity. So I'm going to ask for some participation. You're going to have to come off mute or put it in the chat. Do we think that this activity is child initiated or teacher led? Awesome. Okay, we've got a few coming in. Child initiated, yep, with some teacher guidance for sure, right? You see that come in, but this is, in essence, this is a child initiated activity. Okay, are children interested and engaged? Yep, how do you know? What? I love how you're all writing in the chat. It's so exciting to see. How do you know that they're interested or engaged? Smiles. Ooh, another kid even came. It was so fun that they're like, let's go play. I love that. Visual attention, right? We see them looking. Smiles, attentive. Wonderful. I love that. And they're staying and playing, right? This video is 1 minute and 57 seconds and it's a snip. This was a longer video, right? So yeah, they're staying and playing. Are there opportunities for interaction? Yep. I'm seeing all those yeses come in. Absolutely. I love it that even the other little boy came over. So it's like a very fun activity for them. Okay, now this is the fun part. Well, this is all fun, but now I want you to think of what are some skills that children need to engage in this activity. When thinking of a skill, let's think of some specifics around what might the child need to say or do to participate and engage in this block play with dinosaurs and little action figure folks. Answering teacher questions. Yep. Maybe also answering peer questions, right? If they ask about one thing or another. Oh, interesting. They have to agree on the point of the game, right? We could even get down into some of the DRDP is a great resource when we're looking at what is shared and collaborative play and what are some of those pieces that they might need, as well as I'll show you this other great resource that'll help you. They have to share materials. They have to take turns. And I love it because share materials, we all know from the preschool world that takes a lot of breaking down of what does sharing look like? Do we mean that I use some, you use some? Are we splitting it in half? Like kids are really needing some of that systematic teaching of those little components. Yes, so we want to see them use imagination or symbolic play, right? Which is many times one of those components of play. Appropriate use of toys. Wonderful. So we're seeing these are skills that just all kids would use. We would like them to use to be able to engage in that activity. right? Some that we're maybe not even thinking of right now is, right, like the ability to get to the toys, to be able to touch and access them, right? If like one of these kiddos was in a wheelchair, some of the things we do make assumptions around. I mean, I don't even think of them, right? So then we have to think, oh, yes, and we do need to be able to sit and touch the toys, to be able to, be on the same level as our peers. So fabulous. So what you did right now is a little tiny baby version of an activity-based observation, which is a place that we want to start when we are supporting kiddos and thinking about what to teach. Now, feel free to put it in the chat. Why do you think it might be important for us to go through this activity-based observation and watch our child playing in an activity with other children? Why might we want to do this activity-based observation? Yep. Natural opportunity versus contrived. That's great, Amber. And that really is a key component, is we want to start from what are they already doing and what's going on. Yep. Knowing where to start, generalizing skills. Yeah. Do we know what they're interested and who they play with and their preferences? Awesome. Skills in a natural situation. To set goals and see if goals are being met. Absolutely. And it's within this context of the natural ongoing activity. So this is just one piece that is super critical. I mean, it's all really wonderful and critical, but I don't know why this is cut off halfway. I'm sorry about that, you guys. It should be good on your pair deck. But these are nice little cute steps that go all the way to the top. So what our activity-based observation does is it helps us to think of where do we need to start with Ryan, right? We want to get to this end goal of, whatever his IEP goal is, and really that broader statement, but we got to start with where he's at, right? We've got to start with that piece of the skill that he needs right now. And then we know that there are future steps that are going to get him to that end result. So what you did was started sort of that process. But luckily, we also have a bunch of other ingredients that we get to add, right? We need to think about IEP goals, DRDP, current skills, definitely observations. I saw in the chat, child preferences and interests, right? We want to know what Ryan's into so that we can then start working and thinking about him. Teacher priorities, family priorities, and family and teacher input, right? Those all are these ingredients that come together so that we get to figure out what is the priority. Remember, there's so many things. What are we going to focus on? And what's our first step going to be? So I want you to take a moment in your, in the little chat response thing, of thinking, what do you see as the most important or some important ingredients here in this cake? What really stands out to you when we look at these different pieces that we want to know information about to figure out what we're going to teach the child? Child preferences, that is great. I think that is a truly important one. IEP goals, yep. Family values. I think that one's so critical. And as a teacher, we're all busy, there's a lot going on. And I think really including the family input is going to give us such a better picture of the child. I love it. And I love this one. They're all important, but success probably depends on the child being interested and engaged, on interests, preferences, and family priorities. Yeah, and thinking of what do parents want, right? Like just including them in the conversation. I was a preschool teacher, I was a coach for a long time, and then I worked in administration and I had my own kids, right? And so now I have children who are in the classroom, and it's interesting now to think of that dance that we do with the teacher and sharing my kids' preferences and interests, because sometimes they're very different kids at home and at school, and there's a lot that can be gained and supported by continuing those conversations with parents. Okay. You guys are just chugging right through this. Thank you for participating as we go. Okay. So one of those things that we talked about is the DRDP, because the DRDP can be a super useful tool because it gives us this sort of picture of where the child is at. So if you could take a moment to answer that little question in here, the child report, I was mind blown a couple years ago when I was shown this. I was like, wait, what? This is a beautiful tool. It already exists. I love it. But many people haven't seen it before. So I'm curious to see sort of where we are at. Oh, see, I get so excited when people haven't seen it before. Okay, we're at 50-50 in this room, and that is exciting. And I'm glad no one said like, what is that? And it does not look helpful. So let me tell you a little bit about the DRDP child report. So you'll see that there are some links which you can click on, which you need to have an account to log in to the DR Access system, and you can create your own account, and then you can see different reports. There's also some like guidance around the reports. If you are general education teachers, you also have access to this child report. It's just sort of a different avenue to get there for that child report. Okay, and I'm giving you just like the basic tiny top of this. But what you can see, for those of you who aren't as familiar with the DRDP, is you can see here it goes from responding earlier, which are measures where the student is responding sort of more at early infancy, all the way till kindergarten entry. So this is a continuum of skills that get us up to when they're ready to go to kindergarten. I'm going to go to the next one because we want to look at Ryan and see where Ryan is at, so we can see where he's at in his developmental progress. Now, we're not looking at this for age equivalencies to see, you know, he is 4 years old functioning at an XYZ age level. That's not what this tool supports us with. But what this tool does show us is in his measures, where might he need some support? So I'm going to ask that to you all, of looking at this. If we say, here is more towards the early infancy side, and here is towards the kindergarten entry side, and we see a jagged profile, which everyone has a jagged profile. That is what normal, typical development is. Which measure or measures do you think might, based on this, show that he needs some more support in? Which measures are the ones that are on the closer to early infancy side than the kindergarten entry side for Ryan? Using this as a data point, what does that tell us? And you can write that right in the chat. Great. So we need social, emotional, SED, LED. Great. You guys are getting there. LLD. Love it. So we circle those there, right? So those two areas are the areas where he's at in the DRDP. Those are the ones that are furthest to the left. So those give us a good cue that those may need some support, and we can sort of work on prioritizing those areas. Okay, so we're going to share a little bit more information about Ryan. So if we dive into that DRDP child report and we look at social emotional, we see this is where he's at right now. He interacts in simple ways with familiar peers as they play side by side. What I love about the DRDP, for those of you who don't have it, it has these examples here, which help you to sort of relate to what does that really mean. And the next step that we would want him to get to right, is to participate in brief episodes of cooperative play with 1 or 2 peers, maybe taking turns, trying on hats. Those are some examples. And here we have sort of what the team thought about. They said, Ryan passes toys to peers. He will look at and watch others, and he plays near them. But he doesn't use language with his peers. So it's just good to know. We saw him playing near his peers and doing that, but he wasn't really using any language with his peers. Then we can look at this measure, language development. Right now he's using a variety of single words to communicate, right? So he's naming things, he's communicating no more. And the next one would be using 2 words together to communicate. So he uses single words to make requests from teachers and names items. He does not frequently direct words towards peers. So these are 2 different measures of social, emotional, and language. And together, the team thought about and was thinking of what is something that's really going to help Ryan to engage in these activities that he's doing with peers. So we just want to think like we're going to guide it in that sort of direction, because we sometimes have to combine these 2 pieces together. I'm going to skip that one and I'll come back to that. So Ryan, he has 2 IEP goals. These are just the general areas of his goals and sort of what they say, because this is not an example of how one should write an IEP goal, but I want us to note that he has a social interaction goal and he has a language goal. So really working to increase his language and his social interaction. So I'm going to guide you through what the team talked about. Okay? So you already called it social, emotional, language. They found him. He's able to name familiar toys, use single words to request. He doesn't ask a peer. So you can see how this is combining and looking at social and language and thinking, where did the team really think would be helpful for him? And they wanted to work on asking a peer for an item or turn using 1 to 2 words. I just want to put a disclaimer there that you could go in different directions with what you want the learning target or that first step of a skill to be. They could have said that they wanted him to play for a longer time with his peers. They could have upped it to language across different pieces. It's really looking at, as a team, what's going to work best within the classroom and within the environment, and knowing all of those other pieces, right? Because we only have such a tiny little picture of Ryan. So what I would like you to do on your Pear Deck is to look at this, and we're going to go through these questions together, and you can check it off with your, you can use the pencil function now and sort of check it off. And I want to see, is this target skill, asking a peer for an item or a turn using 1 to 2 words, is that a target skill that we could see or hear the child do? Does that seem observable? Yep, I'm seeing yep, love it. Is that measurable? Could we count how many times we saw or heard the child use the target skill? Yep, I think so. Does this build on what the child can do right now? Oh, look, everybody's checking them off. It sure does, right? It builds right from where he's at. And then is it aligned to, sorry, I have to read it. Is it aligned to what we want all children in preschool to know or do? Yep, and I think I see a lot of yeps there. Oh, look, you guys are making marks on this. This is exciting. This is exciting, using new technology and seeing all these things happen. It's so fun. Love it. So the point here is with those targets, when we create a target, we want it to be observable, measurable, proximal, and aligned. It's super important to think about this aligned piece, because we may have a parent who wants to work on this skill, and it may not be aligned, or an IEP goal that works on a certain skill that may not be aligned with what we want all children to do. So it's something we can definitely work through and towards. Okay. So I want to then talk about, we did what to teach. Okay, now we're going to do when to teach. We've identified that target skill, and we want to think about when the best time to implement that skill would be. And I'm going to, and let's see, I don't even know how we get to right on the screen. So just make sure you're on Pear Deck to be able to check it off and use the writing tool there. We're going to watch this video real quick, and I just want you to sort of reflect on and think about what Crystal's talking about when she's going to teach a skill.
When we're thinking about embedded instruction, it's really important to get this concept of fit, because that's what bridges the what to teach piece of embedded instruction with the when to teach piece of embedded instruction. And that's how we make sure that children have authentic opportunities to learn the skills that are really important. One of the things that makes embedded instruction a naturalistic approach is that the skills you're teaching are a good fit for the characteristics and expectations of the activity where you're teaching them. What makes embedded instruction look so seamless and natural, it's because I'm teaching skills or behaviors in activities where all children need to be able to use them. If I am trying to help a child learn how to ask a peer for an object, I might do that in a play activity like building blocks, or during a game where they would naturally need to ask a friend for something. That's what we would call a natural fit, because any child who's participating in that activity would need that skill to be able to participate. Another kind of fit is logical fit. An example would be when the child doesn't have to be able to use a particular behavior or skill to participate in the activity, but it would be logical for them to be able to practice that skill during the activity. One example might be if I am teaching a child to count objects using one-to-one correspondence, and we're building a tower in the block area, I could ask him how many blocks are in the tower and support him to count the blocks. I might not do that too often because I don't want to interrupt the child's play, but it's a logical time that we could embed teaching around that skill. A planned fit would be when you modify or make an adaptation or arrange the environment so that a child will have an opportunity to practice a skill. An example of this might be if I'm working on helping a child learn to fasten or unfasten clothing items. We might not have a lot of natural opportunities to do that in the classroom day, except for maybe arrival and departure. And so one way that I might plan or arrange for planned opportunities would be to include items that the child might have to fasten or unfasten when they go to the dramatic play area. So when we're thinking about embedded instruction, this concept of fit is really important, because that's what brings together or bridges when we teach with what we're teaching.
So let's just take a moment and reflect. What stood out to you about that video and thinking of this when to teach idea and that fit between the target that you want to teach and the activity within where you teach said target? So let's just take a moment and put in the chat. Here we go. Any reflections that you have on that? You can also come off mute and share. We want to make it as natural as possible when possible. Awesome. I love it. The importance of planning with intention. I love that last example when it's like, oh, great, I want to teach buttons. Let's put some dress up clothes with buttons in the play area. Like, what a beautiful way to plan for a child to have more opportunities for that. What else really stands out is when she says, but I want to, like with the counting, opportunity. She wants to be cautious of how much she uses it because she doesn't want to disturb the child's play, right? So it's really building on what the child is doing. Okay, we're gonna do a little practice. Okay, so make sure you're on your Pear Deck. And again, if you came in late, you can click on the link that says the Pear Deck. Erica has put it in there, and then you should be able to go on here and see if you think that this is a good fit. And you can move your blue dot to what you think it needs to be. Okay, so let's see where we're at. Okay, so we're not thinking that this is the greatest fit. Some are like, I don't know, maybe like we have a built-in opportunity where we do some of those things. I think that some of us who've been doing embedded instruction for a while can always like have that conversation. Like maybe there is, you know, a set time, but mostly during arrival, we're probably going to focus on following the routine and maybe a different target. Self-feeding may not be the time that we have all the time to do that. Okay, next one. We want to think, is this a good fit? Oh, sorry, I jumped past it. Sorting objects during cleanup. Oh my gosh, now that I clean my toys with my children, and I think it's the largest sorting objects activity ever because they like to put all the little pieces together in a bag. And then we have to go sort them out. So yeah, it's a very natural time where sorting is required. Love it. Okay, one more. Whoops. One more with us. Asking for a turn during free play. Awesome. Nice and easy. Perfect. So we are all there in that thought of a good fit. Okay, and just be thinking about why that's important. Okay, that we really need to be mindful of this good fit so that we're really building it in and utilizing activities that a child is already doing, already engaged in, that other children are engaged in. Because if we truly think about inclusion, we want to think of how our kiddos are doing things together within the ongoing activity versus saying, oh, okay, Katie's playing, but oh, now we need to work on her asking for turns. So I'm going to set up a different activity over here and pull Katie away from her peers, right? And that sounds like silly while I'm saying it, but that's many times how services have been delivered for children with IEPs is by pulling them out. And what's really great about embedded instruction is it shows us if we go through these steps that I'm talking through, we can really promote child learning within the context of the general education classroom. Okay, now this is just bugging me that my slides are not showing up as they should on Pear Deck, but I'm being flexible with that as we're learning new technology and things. I want to just talk to you about an activity matrix. Because we just talked about a good fit, right? So we talked about the when. An activity matrix is a great tool that you can use in your classroom to think about and plan for when you might want to implement that target. So let me show you a few of these parts of the activity matrix, and you have on your Padlet, you have a copy of an activity matrix you could make if you'd like to. So we've got the daily schedule right here, right? This is a pretend daily schedule. I'm sure you all have many more activities within your day. And then we've got the target, which we talked about already, is using one word to request an item from a peer. Looking at this activity matrix, I want you all to think and put in the chat if where there's a little mark with a number is where the team has decided they want to implement this learning target. And with the number, they indicated how many they plan to do for this. So what I would like you to do in the chat, do these activities look like a good fit to work on this skill? Yep. I'm seeing yeses all around. Okay. The team also decided they want to do it 3 times during child choice, 2 times during snack, and 3 times during outdoors. Again, using a word to request an item from a peer. Does that feel like that would be manageable for the staff or a classroom to give these opportunities to Ryan? It sounds appropriate. It sounds possible. We're not saying 1 opportunity, which isn't going to help Ryan, and we're not saying 25 opportunities, which is going to be far too many for a teacher to be able to implement. And again, I'm giving you all this high level version of this because I just want you to have some ideas of what exists out there within embedded instruction so that you can come and work with us and explore more around using and implementing this process. Because one big piece that we do talk about is professional development that consists of just trainings only gives you a tiny, tiny bit of new knowledge and awareness, right? And it doesn't really start looking at your practice. So that's where we do this practice-based coaching to build coaches and teachers through this process. Okay, we did what to teach, how to teach. Embedded learning opportunities are planned, implemented, and there are ABC learning links. Let me just tell you really quick, and we are gonna, again, we are going through this quickly because I want you to just have that high level understanding. And what I want you to gain from this is we're talking about embedded learning opportunities, right? So we talked about what can I teach during snack, during sensory play, during those ongoing activities, but we have to be planned and intentional about that. So what embedded instruction tells us is that each of those opportunities should have the A, B, and C learning links, meaning there's something that we do, an antecedent to cue the behavior. There's the behavior, something we see or hear the child do, and then there's a consequence. That's something that happens after the behavior that is going to make that behavior more likely to occur again. I'm going to give you an example on this, okay? So, for example, we could do with today, when I ask you all to write a response in the chat, then you do write the response. I try to say, wow, thank you so much for participating. I don't know that that necessarily makes you want to participate more, but I hope that it does. So this is just simple. This isn't consequences like when we talk about in behavior, right? This is what do we do to help to support that, that behavior skill to happen again. Okay, so this one, you should be able to write on that. So we're going to think about the consequence here. Ryan's target skill. Ask a peer for an item using 1 to 2 words. Okay? The team said, okay, you know what we're going to do? What we will do to set up the occasion so he'll use it is we're going to make sure that the peer has some of those materials that Ryan wants. And then we're going to prompt Ryan to say, hey, you can ask Johnny for one. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. We're planning that. Johnny has the materials. I'm like, oh, Ryan, you want to play dinos? Why don't you ask Johnny? Then we see Ryan asks Johnny for the item. He says, I want dinos, or dinos, please. What I would like you guys to write is, what do you think that you might say or do as a positive consequence after Ryan does that behavior? So he did the behavior. What might you say or do to support that behavior? And you can click on the text piece or you can write it in. So you can click, if you click on the T, oops. If you click on the T, then you can access a text box so you can type, or you can write it in too with your hot little hands, whatever suits your fancy. So I just want to think of what you might say or do, or what even might be happening naturally in the environment that may want him to use this again. Oh, awesome. Look, when you asked Johnny what you needed, and he gave it to you, you got it. positive descriptive acknowledgement. Give a hug or a high five. I love that if it's paired with, whoa, you used your words to get the dinosaur from Johnny. Wow, Ryan, you asked Johnny for a dino. You're using your words. Yep, you used your words to get what you wanted. Specific praise, you asked your friend. I love it. So you all are responding to the feedback that I'm giving, which is wonderful because I love to see the shift in responses because you're saying, hey, you did it. Also, I like someone down here noticed that it's natural. You also got the dino. So when you use words to because you want something and then you get that thing, that is going to be naturally reinforcing of that behavior. Oh, this is driving me crazy that it is not showing up, you guys. That was written in there for you, which a consequence would be, right? You use that positive descriptive praise, and then you can also use the natural context, which is building the reinforcement as well. Okay, we went through a lot of steps, and I'm going to give us a moment to sort of process all of that. But I just want to share with you the last piece. We're not going to have a practice activity on this, but it is really easy. But what's unique about embedded instruction is that we look at how do we evaluate so we can then determine what's our next what to teach. As you can see, it's a cycle that goes through because we want to keep moving through it to keep teaching new skills to our children. So this is the part that just like feels so exciting to me is we want to ask ourselves these two questions. Am I doing it? And is it working? The crucial part here, right, is am I doing it states, am I truly implementing those embedded learning opportunities, and are they ABC learning links? So I have to look at those two pieces because many times what the research shows us is that we say, oh, this intervention is not working, but really we are not implementing it as we plan to, so it can't work. And then we want to look at, is the kiddo making progress? So that's just what I think is really neat about embedded instruction is we're looking at, am I doing it? We're looking at the teacher behavior and the implementation, and we're looking at the child progress. All of that is going to guide us into, do we need to make changes? So that was a ton of information that we zipped through really quick with you because I wanted you to see an example all the way through of what embedded instruction looks like. So now I'd love to take just a moment and reflect and ask, do you have any questions or thoughts about this process of embedded instruction before I go into some resources and sort of pathways for you to get more support? Oh, look, here's our question slide. Okay. Questions are accepted and we're excited about them as we go through this process. Okay. I want to give you guys one last thing, and we're not done after this, but we're just reflecting on embedded instruction, because please stay with us till the end so that I can show you how you might access and some more resources for you to walk away with today. So here we have another Pear Deck where I suggest you doing the text, and I want you to think of what are two takeaways from today's learning. So on Pear Deck, I don't think you can go back through the slides, but maybe Erica, you can pop the PDF of the presentation in again, just in case you want to look back and see what we did talk about today. And this is sort of just your time to reflect and think what you learned and what you're going to take away from today's learning experience. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. No pressure or stress, just reflect, because that's how we're going to be able to learn and process and move this information forward. Great. And take your time. Megan, I'm wondering if you have the link for the Pear Deck, because it looks like you're using Zoom to do it. So I'm gonna share the Pear Deck. Oh, it's Melissa, maybe it's Melissa. I want to make sure that you're able to access it. Wonderful. So we've got a clear understanding of priority learning targets, remembering where the child is at. Embedded instruction is a great tool for social emotional learning. Oh, I love it. I wonder what it looks like in math and reading. And I'll tell you that we pick social emotional many times to show you guys because it is a little bit trickier than math and reading, right? But still, it just looks like playing through fun activities that kiddos are doing naturally within the classroom. Awesome. Okay. I love it. Embedding learning opportunities. So we're working through this embedding piece together. From this, did any other questions or anything come up from you all? Because they're interested, child preferences, these are all such great components. More insight to the ABC links. I love that. And we gave such a tiny, tiny, tiny little explanation of that. So more to come, especially if you are one of the folks who might be interested in joining us through some of our grant funded opportunities. You know, what I don't have on here, and I do have a few of my folks in here to talk about, is the PEPD grant. But let me just tell you, there are two current pathways, right? We have our Special Education Division grant, which is 619, which can help districts to fund a coach and coaching support so that your teachers and yourself can get trained on practice-based coaching and the use of effective practices, specifically around embedded instruction. There's also the CDE EED, Inclusive Early Education Expansion Program, right? Which is the EAP, many people call it EAP or IEEEP grant, that those monies can be used to support professional development. And what else I'll tell you here is that when we talk professional development, we will do some training pieces like this, but it's going to be coaching wrapped in with it, because we know that's the true way to get towards implementation and behavior change. And then we have our PEPD folks, which I could give you guys like a second or two. It's another tool that's sort of coming forth, and in the upcoming year, it's just another grant opportunity to be able to support kiddos through embedded instruction. Is there anything else, Angelia or Debbie, you'd want to add on PEPD?
Yeah, just that. Oh, Angelia, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say that it's just another opportunity for funding, and the door in to PEPD funding is the same door in to 619. So if you fill out the assessment and get in touch with y'all for these grants, they will be introduced to PEPD possibly as well.
Right. The only other thing I'd add, thank you, because I was thinking the same exact way, is that this funding, we'll be taking applications and things shortly. We'll be working with a few programs to ensure that they're, prepared to join. And then the actual project starts in July of 2024. So there's a little time to think about it, to get involved, but you'll be hearing more from us along with, what else is going on. So we're just another part of this, and our goal is very similar to it's almost exactly the same as 619.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. And so what that means, right, is we as a project, you all as LEAs or county offices or teachers have different sort of pathways to access this support that we're talking about. But What we know for long-lasting change is that we need to have teacher and coach virtual learning experiences, professional learning communities for teachers and coaches, coaching in the classroom, and continued support for coaches and leaders and resources and tools. So again, I gave you like the brief intro around embedded instruction. We are looking to partner with additional folks at whatever level you may be to see if there is a way that we can help to support you and your organization. Because I was a teacher and we need the support. And teaching post-COVID too, right? I know that there's a lot of pieces that our teachers are navigating, and I want you all to be able to do that. We have some resources. So I don't want this to be confusing. There is a Padlet just from today's training, which is on your, on like the handout that says what's it called? The home base, right? That's the Padlet for today. This Padlet, this is the Padlet for today. So let me just show you guys the one for today so I don't confuse us. You've got the video of that overview of embedded instruction. You have, the access to the slides and the Pear Deck, and here are the slides here. You've got a copy of that DRDP child report. You have a couple of resources that are super simple and easy about high quality activities in the classroom. And then over here, you have access to the other Padlet, which has a lot of stuff on embedded instruction, right? So this one is a bit deeper, and I would recommend, if you wanted to peek through it, if it feels overwhelming, you're like, ooh, can you just tell me what you might want me to look at there? We can have those conversations there. But you'll see that there are multiple resources as well as videos around what is embedded instruction within the context of California. Then another piece here is the embedded instruction website, which gives you some more information around the project and what the goal is and what they're doing. Because again, we are a statewide project that is supporting embedded instruction, and you'll see there are some great videos. This is California teachers. This is Maureen. She was my first teacher that I coached. And this is a great video of her talking about her experience, as well as you can see more about Ryan's story and just get some more information there. Whoops. So, and that's here, the website and the Padlet. And then I've got time for questions, and really, I wanted to just guide you to these two resources. So there's the DR Access website, which is really helpful. Now, this is the special education side of the DRDP, right? And here you can take any of the courses in DRDP Learn. You can look at the DR Access reports. There's even a link to Embedded Instruction California. And there are tons of resources in here to support you as teachers or completers of the DRDP. Let me see. There's also one other tool that I want to share with you, which will be a good test if I can get there. Okay, so here in assessment supports, this is a really cool new piece, which is called the linking tool. So we talked about social emotional today. I can look at social emotional skills and I can see how they align to the DRDP measure. And then I see the infant, toddler, and preschool learning foundation measures here. So as I click through these, I can sort of create the plan of what are the infant, toddler, and preschool learning foundation measures that align with that. And this one sort of gives you a little bit more of that age range. So I think that this is a neat tool to explore, just another resource I can leave you with today. So I'd love everybody to get to flip around on there and let me know. Do you have any other questions, takeaways, next steps that you'd like to talk about today?
I just want to thank you for very well-paced, well-organized, interactive presentation. Thank you for
Yeah.